When people have gone through a trauma, tragedy, or injustice, one of the first questions they often ask themselves is why? Why am I going through this? Why did this happen? And though that is a reasonable question to ask, in this video, I'm going to be going over some Holy Spirit inspired reasons why it's not so good to ask the question why. Stay tuned. Hi, my name's Aaliyah Mullins and welcome to Holy Spirit Inspired Counseling, where I use my education, training, and experience to give you kingdom perspective on counseling issues. And in this video, I'm going to be going over the question, why? Now, for people who have been working through a major life challenge, trauma, or injustice, the question why can become a sticking point. And where they had been making good progress working through their feelings on an issue, the question why stifled that progress. In this video, I'm going to give some Holy Spirit inspired reasons why the question why can be problematic. And then at the end of this video, I'm going to challenge you to ask yourself a different kind of question. Let's go. One reason why it's not so good to ask the question why is because when people ask the question, why is this happening to me? The question why is not really a question. It's more of a kind of statement of non-acceptance. And when people go through a traumatic event, one of the first defense mechanisms they experience is denial. And denial doesn't always look like someone saying, this isn't happening. Denial can take on the form of many different shapes and sizes, like the question, why? And when the question why is really a camouflage sort of denial, it can create a block in the healing process. Now, while denial is a very normal reaction in the initial stages of a difficult event, it is critical in getting beyond denial in order to be able to process and move through the emotions associated with a traumatic event. And when people are in denial and they don't know it, they don't have any real insight into where their ongoing behaviors and negative feelings are coming from. That makes it very difficult for them to work through those feelings. So when the question why is really a camouflage sort of denial, that's when it's not so good to be asking the question why. Another reason why asking the question why can be problematic is because when people ask, why would someone treat me like this? Why would someone do this to me? What they're really saying is, I don't deserve this. And what we deserve is not a determining factor in what actually happens. So this type of reasoning is illogical, and it causes people to continue to ruminate and focus on their negative feelings and thoughts about events. So while it's not inherently wrong to think or even say, I don't deserve this, getting stuck on that idea or using it as a justification for why something should not have happened is not an effective way to work through negative feelings. And unaddressed negative thoughts and feelings about an event being unfair or unjust can create a variety of other negative feelings, like feelings of worthlessness, rage, and self-harm. And as we discussed in my last video, something being unjust and unfair can make it very difficult to work through. So this idea of something being not deserving is the kind of idea that needs to be addressed. Because if it's hidden by a why question, we can get stuck on these feelings and that can ultimately make them worse. So when we're asking the question why, and it's really hiding feelings and thoughts about something being unjust and unfair, that's the kind of why statement that it's not so good to ask. Another reason why it's not so good to ask the question why is because when people ask the question, why wouldn't they just listen to me? Why wouldn't they do the right thing? All of these questions keep the focus on someone else instead of our own thoughts and feelings. And we don't have any guarantees that we will ever understand the thoughts and emotions of someone else. We could analyze, examine, and reflect over and over and never be able to comprehend the thought processes, actions, and reactions of someone else. So this way of asking the question why can be a reflection of us having an expectation of how we feel someone should have acted, how they should have behaved. And while there are many things in this world that should be different, that doesn't change the fact that things are the way that they are. So this form of asking the question why is another kind of denial, a sort of non-acceptance for reality the way that it is. We can't make people act the way we think they should act. and we can't make people be who we want them to be. Now, the Lord can transform people, but we have to release them to Him because we don't have any control over that process. This pattern of asking the question why can create frustration, conflict, and hurt. So when we find ourselves asking why people are the way that they are, then that's a why question that it's not so good to ask. Another reason why asking the question why is problematic is because when people have gone through a painful or traumatic circumstance, there is no answer to the question why that can justify what happened. For people who unexpectedly lost a loved one, or people who were betrayed or violated, there is no answer to the question why that can make what happened be okay. And there isn't an answer that will take the pain away. In some ways, the question why suggests that there's an answer that can make what happened be acceptable. And that's just not the case. There are answers that make sense, but no answers that could condone what happened. It wasn't okay, and it's still not okay, whatever the why is. Since there is no acceptable answer to this question, when people ask the question why over and over again, they can get stuck on this sort of hamster wheel, always seeking understanding, but never obtaining the type of understanding that leads to healing and emotional well-being. So what does this mean? Well, it means that when people have been through major challenges or traumas and they've been asking the question why, they've really been asking the wrong question. The question we should be asking is how? How do I heal from what happened? How do I deal with these feelings? How do I move through this difficult emotional territory and get to a place of peace again? How do I recover? How do I learn to be not offended anymore? Now, we don't have to have answers to these questions initially, but these questions do have answers, and we can get those answers with support and help from others. Now, asking how is a question with forward momentum, and it helps to move us through difficult feelings, and it creates less opportunity for people to get stuck in negative emotions. Moving from why to how can take effort, and oftentimes people need extra help with being able to make this transition and do it consistently enough to make progress. So while it makes sense to ask why when going through difficult life experiences, the question why can often be the question that's the most problematic. So to recap, let's go through some of the reasons why it's not so good to ask the question why. 1. When people ask the question, why is this happening? It can be a form of denial. And when people are in denial about their feelings, they can't work through them. 2. When people ask the question, why would someone treat me like this? Why would someone do this? What they're really saying is, I don't deserve this. And what we deserve is not a determining factor in what actually happens. And so when people have feelings about things being unjust and unfair, and those feelings go unaddressed, they can often escalate. 3. When people ask the question, why wouldn't they just listen to me? Why wouldn't they just do the right thing? All of these questions keep the focus on someone else, and they prevent people from examining their own thoughts and feelings. It's far better to understand our own thoughts and reactions than those of someone else. Plus, we don't have the power to change people. The Lord can transform people, but we have to release them to Him. 4. There is no answer to the question why that can make what happened be okay. So even a rational answer to the question why cannot resolve the psychological and emotional impact of what's happened. We want to be prayerful about the way we ask the question why and seek the Lord so that He can show us where our why questions have become a hindrance instead of a natural part of the healing process. Those are my reasons why it's not so good to ask the question why. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you haven't, please hit the subscribe button and the notification bell, and you'll be updated when I post new videos. God bless!